Welcome everyone to Mongols. The Riveters have arrived. The club announced the official name and released the badge of the upcoming USLW team. And joining me to talk all about it is Sporting Director Dan Visser. Dan, welcome back and thanks for joining me.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Mike. Appreciate you having me on.
We now have a name and a badge. What does it mean for the organization?
Yeah, it's super exciting. This has been kind of a long time coming. I mean, I would say the idea of a W League team was first floated really pretty early in kind of my transition into this role last November. Even talks about trying to launch something for 2024. It all felt a bit rushed. Obviously, pretty early on, kind of made the decision to just try to do it right and take our time with it, and basically committed ourselves that for 2025 we were going to do it. And so once we did that, it became a series of standing Monday meetings with kind of a smaller group of just call it key stakeholders to work on really building everything out. And that was, the name. Obviously, we ran kind of the contest to develop that. There was, the branding and just some of the different structures. We've had conversations about locker rooms. We've had, sporting conversations about players, about coaches, about everything. So those standing meetings just kind of kept us on task. But like I said, it's been a long time, and this is kind of the day where all that work gets to be made public, and it's a fun day for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. We mentioned that the crest was released. I'm putting it up on screen now. Obviously, yeah, it's a nice throwback to Rosie the Riveter from World War II, representing the women who went to work in factories and shipyards. The video that the club put out was amazing. Like, I think it made a bunch of people want to just go run through a brick wall. It just fantastic. The one question that we got a lot online, though, and you may or may not have an answer to this, the red bandana sort of stands out. Is that potentially a nod to the days when the Hounds wore red, or is it maybe teasing a little bit towards, some of the colors of the uniforms, or is it just red?
Yeah. Sure. I could say a couple things about that. One, I think that as we had the conversations, red in terms of like the Hounds formally being red, to be very honest, like didn't really enter the conversation until I saw your question today. I didn't really think about it. Part of that's maybe like, I'm from a time period where blue was one of our colors, right? Mm-hmm. But I don't go all the way back to red. Of course, I've seen the logos, and I've been with the club for long enough to know that. So that's probably just call it like a happy accident a little bit. I think that the color red was definitely on purpose. As we looked at different logos, different branding, we messed with kind of a yellow bandana or some different things. I think that red. A few things. One, it's a nod to the color of the original Rosie, right? To the poster. It's also, Pittsburgh is black and yellow, but there are sprinkles of red, right? So you've got kind of the Pittsburgh Pirate that has the red bandana. It's in one of the, right. So it was kind of like, okay, that's not completely foreign within the city, within the professional sports landscape in Pittsburgh. And then I think it just allows us to, you mentioned uniforms, like to be also transparent, we've not designed uniforms yet, but it's kind of like, okay, now we've got a pop of red. Can we play with that a little bit? And I think it just gives us a little bit of versatility. And I know at the Heinz History Center today, they were handing out red bandanas. So it's something that I think we can kind of own as being something that is, uniquely ours, meaning uniquely Riveters, even within the Riveters or within the Riverhounds organization more broadly.
Yeah. One thing I didn't realize until, the branding came out was that the original Rosie poster was actually designed in Pittsburgh by a Pittsburgh artist, which I had no idea. So that's also like a really cool nod. Obviously, in your role as sporting director, thinking about this from sort of an academy perspective, do you still see the academy being called sort of the Riverhounds Academy for everyone? Or do you think that we'll get to a point where maybe it's Riverhounds for the guys, Riveters for the girls? Or how are you thinking about that?
Yeah. Ever's a long time. I don't know what the long-term plans will be. I know in the short term we'll remain Riverhounds across the board. I think if you look at Louisville as an example, they've got, Louisville City on the men's side, which obviously everybody's very familiar with. They've got Racing Louisville on the women's side. Their academy teams are that. They follow kind of the the branding of the top teams in both the boys or men's and women's sides. So I think it's a possibility. I don't have an answer for that at the moment, other than I can tell you in the short term, it's all Riverhounds. Yeah.
It's all Riverhounds. Got it. You mentioned how you've been having sort of weekly meetings. I don't want to jump ahead and lose the impact of the moment. Obviously, Riveters, the crest, that is the focus of today. But I have to ask you, has there been discussions about a manager for the team and sort of any potential direction that you're leaning for that as you continue to sort of put the rest of the pieces together?
Yes, there has been. There's been discussions around it, and I think we'll see something being made more public in the coming weeks.
Okay. In terms of building the team, obviously a USLW team is a little bit different from something like a Super League team because you're drawing from potentially a lot of college players. How do you build this team now? Obviously, the focus will shift to the spring. How early do you start putting the team together, and are you reaching out to people and trying to put the pieces together now, or do you have to wait until later in the spring?
Right. We are starting now. And so we're starting now probably because we're excited. I think it's probably early for W League teams to really be going. I think Josh Kramers, who's our regional league director, newer member of our staff, was a W League coach last year. And so I've had he's not the coach, I'll just say that, but I've been kind of leaning on him. He's in the office every day. So like, just talking through some different things about standard practices or whatever it might be. I've also spoken to a little bit to like Richmond, to NCFC. Some of these teams like an NCFC / Courage, they've got their NWSL team, but they do play and they're quite successful in the W League. And so there's some different people that I have relationships with, obviously more on the men's side so far, but that are involved in these organizations. So just kind of leaning into them a little bit about how they do some different stuff. But in terms of specifically building out the team, it is, I think it will be largely probably local, but we are very much determined to find solutions to bring women in from outside of kind of the Pittsburgh market. A big advantage that we have is that we've had a lot of really good, successful girls come out of our academy. And so we're hoping that a really good group of them return. And I know that there's a lot of excitement just kind of within that group of players. However, this is not an academy team. And so it is about finding the best women that we can find to play. And so some of those will come from our own academy. Some of those will not. And it's kind of marrying those things. I'm very familiar on the men's side, kind of building out a roster. And so I think I can take some of those experiences here. We'll have a combine. We already have a date on the books for that. That we've got field time reserved. We're not ready to really kind of go all out and put that out there. It's still pretty early for that, but it's going to be relationships with college coaches. Scott Gibson, our academy director, has a lot of relationships with those coaches because they want a lot of our players. So it's kind of leveraging some of those relationships. For me, it's leveraging some relationships with agents that I have from the men's side. I've spoken to a couple already, and I've got a printout here on my desk of just like all the different agents across the entirety of the USL Championship. And so, I realize that there may be some agents that are women specific, but there's going to be a lot of interconnectivity where maybe they're part of the same agency or whatever. So I'm starting with relationships, and we'll look to build the team out that way.
That's awesome. One of the first questions that we got from really around the league, around the nation, from our fans elsewhere, once the brand and the logo was announced, was just, "Hey, are you going to be in our division? Like, we want to play you, like in Detroit and everywhere." Has there been any news on sort of the division that we might play in that you could share?
There have been conversations. To my knowledge, nothing's been completely solidified just yet. Some of it is the USL hoping to attract new teams, and obviously that can potentially shift some things. We're kind of in a spot where we're potentially moving more towards the Midwest. We're in a spot where maybe we're moving more east and northeast and whatever. So those are certainly conversations that have been had, and I mentioned that we were kind of looking at maybe doing a little bit of a more rushed launch for last season. Part of the holdup was where are we going to play? So it was kind of like, okay, that's another, at some point there's enough hurdles that you're like, let's do it right. And so over the course of the last 9 months, that's been part of the process has been, what league are we going to play in? And we got to a point where we're like, listen, USL, like we're committed to doing this. We're going to have a team. We'll figure out what league we're going to play in. And so travel cost goes into that. There's things of that nature. So
for sure. What's the next milestone from your perspective?
It's a good question. I would say that over the first, 6 to 9 months, it's been heavy, like kind of branding, heavy structures, called it like organizationally from a business standpoint, LLCs, like websites, different things like that. I think for me, what's really been fun over the last 2 weeks, 3 weeks, maybe a month has really been more on the soccer specific side and building out the team. And so that's really where I'd say the next milestone will probably be announcing a head coach, looking to build out the coaching staff. I think that's an important kind of step because then it allows us to really then go and kind of recruit and scout the team, sign the team. And then it's going to be looking to kind of to get commitments from women to come play for us. So that's what I say some of the next milestones are in my head. If I'm talking on behalf of the organization as a whole, I don't know. There's a lot of stuff that's kind of already out there. I know that, season ticket deposits can be accepted already. There's a lot of stuff that fans can do already to kind of engage with the team now, that really like we were gearing up for this day and to have ready now.
Yeah. Last time you were on the show with us, you had literally just started as sporting director. Like I think you moved into the office like earlier that day.
Right.
What's been your favorite part of the job over the past 9 months?
I think it's been, everybody that's asked me like how it's going, like it has been a challenge to me. Like it's really kind of been engaging. I've said this again to everybody. I functioned in kind of a very similar role for 8 years. Now, 2 of those years were with Dave Brandt. 6 of those years were with Bob Lilly. Even when I'm with Bob Lilly for 6 years, my role kind of changes throughout that time. But for the most part, it's a very kind of similar role. And I would say that kind of in the last couple of years, it just felt like a lot of the behind the scenes, more call it business focused stuff, operations focused stuff, just building out structures in terms of personnel, like all that type of stuff really started to interest me more. And, it's a grind of a season. And okay, as an assistant, if I'm going to be a head coach, then yeah, let's go for it. But kind of this other path started to become interesting to me of more this sporting director type of position. And so it's been challenging. It's been unique and it's been engaging. It's working with a staff of people. Now working with Scott Gibson and John Rotz and Justin Evans and Jonelle Kasma and Mike Proviano. I'm thinking of the people that I just left the meeting with them, Josh Kramers, Kevin Kerr, and I'm leaving people out, but kind of this group of people and kind of trying to be a good leader. And we've got some super talented people. And so just to kind of work with that group and that's different than kind of being, okay, let me just try to kind of carry out Bob's vision. And sure, I have responsibilities and oversight with the players, but ultimately it's kind of being behind Bob, for lack of a better term, right? And I'm always working to carry that out. And now I kind of stand on my own 2 feet a little bit more, and yeah, that could be challenging and humbling, but it's been good.
Good. I'm glad.
A long answer to how things are going. I get it. But
no,
yeah.
that's fine. That's great. Obviously, the day belongs to the Riveters, but I'd be remiss not to bring up the Hounds with you. Obviously, not the result we were looking for this weekend. What's the feeling around the club as we head down these sort of pivotal 5 games left in the season?
Yeah, I mean, there have been some gut punches in the last few games with some goals being scored, after the 90th minute mark. And so that's been really difficult. But at the same time, like, it does feel like the group is playing pretty well. Like, it's not easy to go into Tampa. The Indy game, to be down a man for 90 or 85 minutes. There's so much fight in the group to be able to pull that off, and then not to get not to get the full reward at the end of it is difficult. But I think the group remains positive. Let's not forget, we're not very far removed from winning the Players' Shield, a year ago, and within a season where a lot of things went really well, from Bob and from the group and myself and whatever, it was always about the process. And so then, as we're winning games, there's still a lot that can be picked on, right? And so it's not all just everything is going well, even if results are going well. And I'd say it's kind of the flip now, where just because results aren't going exactly the way we would like them to at this moment, it doesn't mean that everything is going poorly. So it's still a focus on the process when results are coming and when results are not. And there's elements of the process that need to be better. At the end of the day, we're a professional club and we're judged on winning, and we've fallen short of that. So there's no excuses being made, but there's the group, I think, is in a pretty good spot in terms of just like overall mentally, and in terms of, it's certainly not a group that's quit, right? Like, I think that's been very evident by the performances over the last few weeks.
Yeah. Well, Dan, I absolutely appreciate the time. I know you're busy on what's likely going to go down as a historical day in the club's history. I know it'll go down as a historical day. It's just a small step, obviously, as you mentioned, towards sort of that ultimate goal. But best of luck as you continue to put the pieces together moving forward.
Great. Appreciate it.